What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another day of J-Rank, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 25 teams in college football after week 4. Okay, so these are my 5 teams that just missed: Oklahoma Sooners, James Madison Dukes, Kansas State Wildcats, Nebraska Cornhuskers, and Louisville Cardinals. Okay, now as a reminder, the way that I do these rankings is simple. If you've won more, I'm going to reward you for that, okay? So if you have 4 wins, then you're going to be higher than a team that has 3 wins. Even if I suspect that the 3-win team would beat the 4-win team, I'm still ranking the 4-win team higher, okay? And then it doesn't matter if you're, say, 2-1 or if you're 2-0, I'm still going to be ranking you equally. Just because you've played more games, if you lost one, I don't care so much about that. I care a little more about the wins than I do the losses. But obviously, I take into account a loss. There's bad losses. And yes, there are good losses. And so I'm going to take that into account as I do these rankings. Okay, coming in at number 25 is Iowa State. Okay, the Iowa State Cyclones have been very impressive this year. As is typical of them, it's their defense that's really stood out to me so far. Not a lot more to say about them. They've got a very solid quarterback. They're sitting at 3-0, undefeated on the season. They will be moving up these rankings as the year goes on, I suspect. Coming in at number 24, I'm taking Oklahoma State. That loss against Utah was pretty ugly. It was 22-3 until there were 5 minutes to go, and they were able to get some offense going, make things a little interesting, and they ended up losing 22-19. They're still a good team, but I don't have a ton of faith in their offense, especially their quarterback. Alan Bowman was not very good in this game. I mean, he got pulled at the start of the second half for a couple drives, and I don't trust their offense. Their defense is good, and they're a very physical team, typical of Mike Gundy teams, but I don't trust their offense. I'm slotting them in at number 24. At number 23, I'm taking the UNLV Rebels. I like this team so far. They're 3-0, 2 Power 4 wins. They've played really well. They're a very, very serious Group of 5 playoff contender. The Mountain West is looking kind of weak this year. I think outside of them, San Jose State is probably the biggest competition from the Mountain West. UNLV, to me, looks like a team that can run the table and make the playoff. Boise State, obviously, in the Mountain West will be their biggest competitor. It will be close between UNLV and Boise State, and the winner of that matchup will probably end up being the conference champion. Coming in at number 22, a lot of people aren't going to like this. I'm taking LSU. 3-1. They've looked strong this year. They've got a good offense, good defense. They had that one loss to open the season, but they've been a very solid team. They've been good. The way I do these rankings, if I think you'll beat a team that's ahead of you, I'll move you up, as long as the other team doesn't have more wins than you. LSU's coming in at number 22. Coming in at number 21, I've got Michigan. A lot of people are really high on Michigan after that USC game. Yeah, they played well in that game. Their offense, their running game is phenomenal. Their passing game is not. They're not a balanced offense, but their defense is really, really good, and their running game is dominant. If they had a good quarterback, they would be a top 10 team this year. I'm confident in that, but they don't, and without a good quarterback, it's difficult to play good football. So Michigan's coming in at number 21. That was a very good win against USC, one of the more impressive ones of this past weekend. I just don't see them beating the teams that are ahead of them despite that, which brings us to my number 20 team, which is Texas A&M. I like Texas A&M, especially I like them better since Weigman's been injured. And honestly, this is a very, very good team. I think they'll continue to win, continue to move up these rankings. That early loss was tough, but it definitely does not keep them out. That is a very good football team. I really like Texas A&M to do a lot of damage, and I think they're still a sleeper playoff contender. Very dark horse. I don't think it will happen, but they do have a shot. They're a very good football team this year. Coming in at number 19, I'm going to be taking Notre Dame. Okay, that loss to Northern Illinois stunk. That was bad, especially since Northern Illinois, they had a bye, and then they lost to Buffalo, who's not played bad this year by any means. Buffalo's been solid, but they're a MAC team. Northern Illinois lost to Buffalo, and that does not help Notre Dame's case at all. But I still like Notre Dame. They've got a scrappy defense. They've got a good offense, well coached. I like Notre Dame here at 19. Number 18, Penn State. Now, Penn State is down here as a product of the fact that they've only played 3 games. I believe there are 14 4-0 teams in the country. They will be taking up my top 14 spots because that's how I do these rankings. If these were power rankings based solely on who I think is better, not more of a metric where I reward teams more based on wins, Penn State's a top 10 team. Very much a contender in the Big Ten. They are a significant tier above teams like Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Michigan, LSU. Penn State is far above them. Penn State should contend with Ohio State. It's been an issue in the past. Penn State's better than Michigan, solely because their offense is balanced. So I don't think Michigan's much of a threat to Penn State in the Big Ten. Ohio State certainly is. They've played well. And yeah, I like Penn State at 18. At number 17, we've got the 3-0 Oregon Ducks. Okay? Again, like Penn State, if this were a power rankings, it's like I'd put them at probably 7 or 8 range. Very, very good. Offense is elite, defense is elite, well coached. I really like Oregon. One of the top 3 win teams. As they continue to play more games, they'll be moving up. This is a very, very good Oregon team. Coming in at number 16, we've got Ohio State. Oh, excuse me. They are not blue. We've got Ohio State. Okay, again, 3-win team. Really, really good. I haven't loved how they've played 100%. This is just me getting nitpicky over the 2 teams that are right above them, which I'll actually fill in right now. Number 15, I'm taking Georgia. Number 14, Alabama. Okay, this rounds out the 3-win teams. Okay, between these 3, it's just me getting nitpicky. Georgia gets bumped down because of that very close win over Kentucky. Kentucky's not very good. That should have been much more dominant of a performance. Alabama hasn't been perfect either. That win over Florida State was deceptively close. Ohio State, the eye test is what does it for me. Looking just on paper, they're quite possibly higher up. On paper, Alabama's probably 16, then Ohio State, then Georgia. But based on watching them, I trust Alabama to make plays the most. I think Alabama will beat Georgia this week, and I think if they played, Georgia would beat Ohio State right now. Ohio State just hasn't looked great. It's the eye test for me. I've watched some of their games, and the score's been dominant, but it hasn't looked as dominant as I feel like it should be against this, quite frankly, garbage competition that they've been playing. So now we get to the exciting part, the 4-0 teams. Number 13, this one's kind of obvious to me, the Liberty Flames. Like, they've squeaked by, and they've been behind in a lot of their games, but at some point, I kind of feel like we have to stop doubting Liberty. The last few years, they have been really, really good. They've gone through coaching changes, and they've had players transfer. Liberty's a winning football program. Like, I'm not sure what they're doing there, but it's working. They just find a way to win, and I reward teams who win. Liberty's coming in at number 13 because they're 4-0. As long as they keep winning, they'll keep moving up as people above them lose. They haven't looked dominant, and they don't really play anybody basically the whole year, which is really rough for them because they could be undefeated and not make the college football playoff, even in the new format, which is tough just because of how garbage their schedule is and the fact that they're not blowing the teams on their schedule out. That hurts them. They could be undefeated and one loss UNLV, one loss Boise State, those types of teams, even one loss James Madison, stuff like that. That could take away Liberty's group of 5 playoff spot. Number 12, I'm taking the Duke Blue Devils. Surprise 4-0 team. I think it's kind of fluky. I trust them more than I trust Liberty based on how they've played against the competition they've played against. 4-0, yes. I don't even know if they'll get to 8 wins, though. It seems like a fluke. I don't trust Duke, okay? Well, that's nice. Anyways, Duke, I don't love Duke so far this season, but they keep winning, and I'm going to keep rewarding them for that. Duke comes in at number 12. Number 11, we're taking Pitt. And I think Pitt is very good in an ACC that seems to be kind of weak outside of Miami. There's not a ton of teams that I trust in the ACC outside of Miami. Pitt could very well be the number 2 team in the ACC. They are a good team, and it's come out of nowhere. I did not expect Pitt to be good this year. They have played well. I will say West Virginia, I don't know if I trust them, so that win, I mean, good win, but I can't say if it's great yet. But Pitt has played well. I like Pitt at number 11. Significant step up, in my opinion, from number 12 Duke. Coming in at number 10, I'm taking Washington State, okay? 4-0 also. Man, their defense, I don't know if I trust their defense. That game against San Jose State, one of the best games of the season. Absolutely one of the best games of the season. Phenomenal game. San Jose State has a great offense. Washington State didn't beat them with their defense. They beat them with their offense. Washington State has a better offense. John Mateer, one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best players in the nation so far this year. Man, he takes some risks with some of the picks that he throws. He's just a risk taker. But when he's having like 400-plus yards of total offense, he's really good with his legs. Man, I really like Washington State. They've played well this year. I feel like they're another step up from Pitt, and they are definitely in the playoff mix at this point. Coming in at number 9, this one I'm going to get a lot of hate for, but the Utah Utes, okay? Man, Their defense is phenomenal. I'll give them that. They have one of the best defenses in the country. They're really physical, really strong team, typical of Kyle Whittingham. I'll give him that. Their offense, I don't trust their offense. Obviously, Cam Rising's been injured, and I'll give him that. Cam Rising is a step up from Isaac Wilson, who's been mediocre. He's done what he's needed to, and he made some good plays against Oklahoma State, but he's a true freshman, getting his legs under him. Cam Rising's a step up, but I don't think he's going to end up being as big of a step up as Utah fans need him to be, because Cam Rising, his injuries they keep piling up. I don't know if he's ever going to be fully healthy, at least long enough for him to get back into his 2022 form when he was really, really good. I don't know if I can trust him to do that. So right now I have Utah at 9. Utah fans are going to hate me because number 8, I'm taking BYU. Sorry about that, Utah fans. You're welcome, BYU fans. I think BYU, at this point in the season, based on what these two teams have shown me, I think BYU can walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium and come out with a win against Utah. I really do. BYU has one of the better defenses in the country. Statistically speaking, they're giving up a lot of yards, but they don't let teams score. Their 2 Power 4 games, 18-15 against SMU, who just annihilated TCU 66-42. BYU held them to 15 points. This SMU that just scored 66 on TCU. Okay, and then BYU welcomed Kansas State to Provo and creamed them 38-9. Okay, and most of that was BYU's defense. They gave the offense a bunch of short fields. They had a punt return touchdown. They had a scoop and score. And so BYU's offense, I don't trust them. They have playmakers there. Jake Retzloff, one of the most improved quarterbacks in the country, certainly. But I don't trust the coaching still. Aaron Roderick, he's not my favorite offensive coordinator by any means. But they have the playmakers and the ability to do a lot of good things in a wide open Big 12 this year. Are they the Big 12 favorites? No, probably not. Utah's the Big 12 favorites, and anybody could do it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if BYU lost to Baylor this weekend, 2-2 Baylor. But quite frankly, based on what they've shown, especially in that Kansas State game and with that SMU win looking increasingly better, SMU is just outside of my just missed. That BYU's looking solid so far this year. Coming in at number 7, we've got Illinois. I like Illinois so far this year. What they showed in that win over Nebraska this last weekend, very impressive. Illinois, there's a lot of times where we'll get a Big Ten teams like this. Not a lot, but every year it seems like there's a Big Ten team, starts off strong and then ends up just still being a tier below Penn State, who's a tier below Michigan, and Ohio State. I think Illinois will definitely be better than Michigan. From what we've seen so far, I think Illinois is better than Michigan. Penn State, Ohio State, they're back further on the rankings because they've only played 3 games instead of 4. However, I think Ohio State and Penn State still have the edge over Illinois. But Illinois has played some very good football, and I think they need to be talked about. Illinois needs to be talked about a little bit more in terms of the Big Ten race, which is looking, I wouldn't call it wide open. Ohio State and Penn State are still the obvious favorites, but it's a little more open than it's been in the last while. That includes the number 6 team, which to me, Indiana. I was really high on last year's James Madison, and quite frankly, this Indiana team is like half of James Madison from last year. Got their coach, they got like a ton of players from James Madison. Their quarterback is Curtis Rourke, transfer from Ohio. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the past, and he has been playing phenomenal at Indiana. Incredibly efficient, just doesn't seem to make mistakes, and that's what you need in a Big Ten game. Their defense has been solid. I really, really like Indiana so far this year. Number 5, I'm taking Missouri. You could make a case, certainly, for them to be lower because Luther Burden III, or Luther Burden II, whatever he is, Luther Burden has not been as good as we hoped he would. He's been very strong, but he's just not on the same receiving pace. I think he's at on pace for 850 receiving yards. So he's good, but he hasn't been as good as we were hoping he'd be. But Missouri still has phenomenal defense, very gritty offense with a lot of talent. They're certainly still one of the best teams in the SEC. That win over Vanderbilt, man, that was tough. There's a lot of learning experiences there for Missouri, for sure. And that win might be enough because it was so close to make a case for Missouri, even as low as 11, 10. But Vanderbilt's improved this year. Their quarterback is Diego Pavia, one of the best, most gritty quarterbacks out there. And so Vanderbilt's not the Vanderbilt of old. I don't know how many SEC games they'll win, but they're better in the SEC than Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, in my opinion so far. And at least Kentucky probably too. So that's not a bad game for Missouri. Trap games happen, and they were able to win it. And so I like Missouri here at 5. Coming in at number 4, I'm taking Miami. Okay. Miami. Cam Ward is a Heisman contender. They've got a much improved defense. They don't seem to be making the coaching mistakes that have maligned them in the past. Last year against Georgia Tech, one of the worst coaching blunders of all time. But they seem so improved this year. Cam Ward is fantastic. If I had to give a Heisman vote at this point in the year, he would be in my final couple for sure. He is a fantastic player. He's doing things really well for Miami. Like Ohio State, some of the games, the score looks great, but watching it, there's been a few things where wasn't quite as dominant as should have been, or I don't know about that. But ultimately, like that game against South Florida, for example, stayed close longer than it should have. But ultimately, that's just me being nitpicky because they have blown out every single team they've played. They are very, very good. Number 3, Ole Miss. Remember how I said Cam Ward would be in my final couple? The reason he's in the final couple and he's not the Heisman is because, to me, the Heisman winner so far would be Jackson Dart. He's got a very stacked team around him. Ole Miss's offense is insane, as usual. It's a Lane Kiffin offense. They're good. The defense has really improved, and it's put the offense in a lot of good spots. But quite frankly, Jackson Dart, quarterback's the most important position on the offense, and he has been playing some fantastic football. Jackson Dart's my Heisman winner so far. Ole Miss is really, really good. They are an SEC contender. They'll make the playoff. Very, very good. National champion contender, even. I love Ole Miss. Can't say enough good about them. Coming in at number 2, Tennessee. Tennessee, they're really good. Their offense, young quarterback, that's not a bad thing by any means. He's playing phenomenal football. Their defense is really what's been carrying them. I personally think they should have beaten Oklahoma by a little more. But this final score was closer than the game actually was. So I like Tennessee as the number 2 team in the country. None of these teams would pass them. They are my locked in number 2. In fact, honestly, my top 3, this is what it would be if this was a power ranking. Ole Miss is the 3rd best team in the country. Tennessee is the 2nd best team in the country. That's what we've seen. That's the order that I think they beat each other, on a neutral field, stuff like that. Tennessee is elite. Very good. National championship contender. Number 1 team in the country. Do not overthink this. It's Texas. Okay? I don't know how they're not unanimous in the AP poll, quite frankly. You're giving too much credit to Georgia. They've been good. They haven't lived up to preseason expectations, in my opinion. Same thing with Ohio State. They've been very good. They haven't lived up to preseason expectations. Texas has exceeded preseason expectations. They're on their backup quarterback, and they're wrecking people, okay? I don't think it matters if Arch Manning or Quinn Ewers is in at quarterback. Texas is the best team in the country. With Quinn Ewers, it's not close, in my opinion. Texas would beat any team in the country. They're well-coached. They're a well-oiled machine. Texas is my national championship pick. They are so good, so elite. It would take a collapse, in my opinion, for anybody to beat Texas. They have played fantastic. And the reason for that, their offense is good with whichever quarterback. Their defense is elite. Their defense is elite. It sets their offense up. It prevents the other team from scoring. Texas has an elite defense that helps their offense be elite. Can't say enough. Texas is the number 1 team in the country. So here's my top 25 rankings for college football after week 4. Let me know in the comments if you've got any disagreements. Tell me why any team should be ranked higher, ranked lower. As a reminder, these teams have 4 wins. These teams have 3 wins. 4 wins is better than 3 wins. It's hard to win games, so that's why they're ranked like that. But in this, comment why you'd move around. In this, comment why you'd move around. If there's any team that should be on here, let me know. And let me know what I should be ranking next. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.